Okay, so very good morning to you all. So as we are discussing about the shear strength theory, so we are trying to understand the different concepts in deep of shear strength theory. We were discussing about fundamentally different axial testing conditions like UU, CU, so CD, so on and so forth. Today, let us try to discuss or let us try to understand a little further deeper details about the triaxial testing. One of the important aspects when you try to deal with triaxial testing or the shear strength theory is how to determine the pore water pressure parameters. So probably, if not everyone, some of you might have already been taught a few of the pore water pressure parameters. Those are called as a Skempton's pore water pressure parameters. So those are, there are two pore water pressure parameters. So those are called as A and B. So these are the two parameters which Skempton has proposed. But there is a big philosophy and theory behind derivation of each and everything. So we'll just superficially touch upon. So what are these pore pressure parameter A and pore pressure parameter B? So when and how they will get developed, so on and so forth. So first of all, the determination or verification of the pore pressure parameters A and B comes into the picture. So when you try to deal with unconsolidated undrained triaxial testing, UU testing, because in this test you are going to put the close or valve will be in a closing condition throughout the experiment. So as a result, so there is some kind of the development of the pore water pressure within the soil sample. And what is the magnitude of the pore water pressure that gets developed as a result of the application of the cell pressure or as a result of the application of the cell pressure plus the axial stress. So here I have taken a few or the couple of the conditions that normally we simulate in the laboratory. So first of all, either we grab the soil sample directly from the field of the required geometry. So maybe you can think of 38 millimeter by 76 millimeter or 100 by 200 millimeter or any other geometry. Or sometimes we directly extract sample size of the compaction mode. Whatever it is. Now, when you talk about the triaxial soil sample, so where it is below the ground, so it is obvious that that sample is subjected to both axial stress as well as the lateral stress. However, when you grab or when you extract the soil sample from the ground and when you bring it to the laboratory, so if you draw the free body diagram of this sample on which the different stresses are acting can be identified as like this. Since the sample is free of all the stresses acting under in situ condition, now we can say that the axial stress is 0 and the lateral stress is 0. So this condition is called as a immediately after sampling from the ground. So in the last class also we try to understand how did we arrive at the zero stress condition, and again I am repeating today as well. Now once this condition is there, now this is the soil sample. The other way around of understanding this one is, just imagine you are compacting the soil sample to a particular compaction state, that is MDD and YMC. So in that condition also, if you look out the stresses on the surface of the element, so it won't subject it to any kind of axial stress as well as the lateral stress. So therefore, we can designate that the stress in the lateral direction and the stress in the axial direction is 0. Now, what we do, we have already taken out the soil sample from the ground, and now this sample will be subjected to the triaxial testing. So as we were discussing in the previous class, the very first step, when you conduct any triaxial testing is, you try to apply some kind of the cell pressure uniformly all over or all surrounding the soil sample in the lateral direction as well as in the axial direction. So therefore, this sample is subjected to the uniform cell pressure. So as the valve is closed, so because of the application of the confining pressure, so we can assume that there is a development of the pore water pressure inside the soil sample. So the pore water pressure that develops can be designated as delta UC. Now, if you write the stresses in the form of a total and effective, so initially this is a total stress condition. When you have applied the confining pressure, there is a development of the cell pressure, so development of the pore water pressure. Then if you write the stresses in the form of effective stress, sigma 3 dash is equals to sigma 3 minus, so the pore water pressure, total minus the pore water pressure. So similarly, so in the axial direction also, so it is equals to the lateral direction, sigma 3 dash is equal to sigma 3 minus delta UC. But one important thing that you need to understand is the development of the pore water pressure has happened because of the application of the delta sigma 3. That is the cell pressure. So therefore, we can correlate the development of the pore water pressure directly as a function of the delta sigma 3. However, the load borne by the water depends upon the amount or the moisture content or the degree of saturation of the soil sample. So therefore, when you correlate the resultant pore water pressure with increment of the delta sigma 3, so these two parameters are equated with another constant that is called as a B. So this is the Skempton's theory. So the Skempton has proposed that the resultant pore water pressure, because of the increment of the delta sigma 3, is proportional to the constant called as a B. So therefore, B is a strong function of the degree of saturation. The pore water pressure B is a strong function of the pore water pressure. So usually the value of the B lies between 0 to 1, where 1 indicates the sample is fully saturated, where 0 indicates the sample is completely dry, there is no water at all within the soil sample. So in between, depending upon the degree of saturation for which you compact the soil sample or either you extract the soil sample, so you may arrive at some specific B value. However, the condition is that if you conduct any kind of a triaxial testing, so you must saturate the sample to the full extent possible, or other way around, you must ensure that the value of the B must be equal to 1 before you apply any deviated stress on the soil sample to shear that particular soil sample. This is a condition. So therefore, it is interesting to note that what would be the value of the B at the field condition. So then only we can understand whether the sample is fully saturated or partially saturated. Then accordingly, either we need to saturate the soil sample or there is no necessity at all. Now, suppose if you look at the soil sample, so initially, yeah.
Sir, yesterday lecture we have learned that which is the sample is not subjected to any load, sir. So it is retained due to its negative pore water pressure, sir.
Correct.
Yes, sir. So, but sir, you have not taken in negative pore water pressure in effective stress, sir. You have just taken delta C, which is produced by the delta sigma 3, sir.
Okay, I'm coming to that point. Okay. So first of all, if you take the sample as it is from the field, as yesterday we were discussing, so the sample retains its geometry as a result of the negative pore water pressure. So therefore, if you take out the soil sample directly from the ground, if you put it under the triaxial setup, and if you try to measure the existing pore water pressure, that is the negative pore water pressure, you will get some value. You will get some value of the negative pore water pressure. Though the pore water pressure is negative, but if you measure the value of the B, it is not unity. So that indicates that though there exists some amount of the water which is inducing the negative pore water pressure and which is corresponding to only certain degree of saturation, and that is again equivalent to certain value of the B. Okay, but when you conduct the triaxial testing, the condition is that the sample must be fully saturated. So therefore, from the initial negative pore water pressure condition, how do you take it to the fully saturated soil sample, or how do you attain the full saturation of the soil sample? So this is a big question. So for that, what you need to do is, there is something called as application of the back pressure. So this step of applying the back pressure is essentially will be exercised, so to saturate the soil sample. Now, what will happen? So when I apply the back pressure, I am allowing the water to enter into the soil sample. So initially, when you compact the soil sample, there is some amount of the moisture content that exists within the soil sample. But when you apply the back pressure also, or other way around, the fundamental meaning of the back pressure is that you will force the water to enter into the soil sample with some pressure, and this amount of the water so will be allowed until to such an extent where the value of the pore pressure parameter B becomes equal to unity. Now initially the soil sample is under negative pore water pressure. The moment you started applying the back pressure, then water starts entering into the soil sample. So this will try to initially negate with the negative pore water pressure. Then as the water starts entering into the soil sample, it slowly converts the negative pore pressure into the positive pore water pressure. But at the same time, so you cannot directly apply the back pressure without applying the cell pressure, without applying some amount of the cell pressure. So what will happen if you apply the back pressure without applying the cell pressure?
It loses its geometry, sir.
It loses its geometry. Any other? Others?
Effective stress will decreases as initial, sir.
Okay, effective stress decreases. Any other idea? Any further analogy that we can think of?
Sir, can you please repeat the question? My video is lagging actually.
Okay. See, so initially when you collect the soil sample from the ground, it is at the negative pore water pressure condition, minus UR. Now, the condition, an essential condition in every triaxial testing is the sample must be fully saturated. Now, from the initial negative pore water pressure, so I need to make the soil sample fully saturated. That can be attained by applying the back pressure. So, in the step of a back pressure, what we do is we will allow the water to penetrate into the soil sample with some pressure. Okay, but when you apply the pressure to the soil sample without a requisite value of the confining pressure, what will happen? What possibly could happen? Anybody? Okay. So let's see. See, for example, when you conduct this triaxial testing, what you do? You insert the compacted soil sample into the membrane, rubber membrane. Now, suppose when you are applying the back pressure, without you taking care of the sigma c, what will happen is because of the pressure, the sample might get separated from the rubber membrane. It will simply float in the water. Okay, so when the sample is simply floated in the water, so there is no triaxial testing. So the whole test got flopped out. So that's the thing. So therefore, in order to maintain a proper contact between the soil and the rubber membrane, until such an extent, even under the application of the back pressure, there should not be any leakage through the wall between the rubber membrane and the soil sample. So that can be ensured only when you apply the sigma C, which is slightly higher than the back pressure. So therefore, when you saturate the soil sample, you apply the back pressure, or with the help of the back pressure, you saturate the soil sample, but simultaneously you also need to apply the cell pressure. While this is the saturation is not also an instantaneous phenomenon. So here we have to keep on measuring the value of the B. The value of the B. Suppose in this case, when you apply the confining pressure, the value of the B could be positive, because here the cell pressure is higher than the back pressure. But here, so the B value is correlated with the back pressure. The B value is correlated with the back pressure. So you measure the pore pressure using or with the help of some device, and you know what was the net pressure, that is sigma C minus back pressure which is applied on the soil sample, and thereby calculate the value of the B. Value of the B. So you need to apply the back pressure until the soil sample got fully saturated. So this is how normally we saturate the soil sample in the triaxial test. Okay. So that's why the B is a strong function of the pore water pressure parameter. So this is one of the pore pressure parameters that Skempton has proposed. Now, so once this is done, suppose say now you are consolidating the soil sample. Still you can able to measure how much is decrement in the pore pressure as a result of the applied cell pressure, and which is also again use some kind of insight to calculate the B value, how much reduction in the degree of saturation. It is vice versa. So increase of the B from 0 to 1 indicates the saturation of the soil sample. So from 1 to 0 indicates desaturation of the soil sample. So if it is from 0 to 1, so you are either saturating the soil sample, or from 1 to 0, it may be indicated in the form of some consolidation. So therefore, if you look at or if you refer to any of the books, the B is also correlated with the consolidation coefficients like CV and CC or CV and CS. So even that thing also you can see. Okay. Now, once the cell pressure is applied, now you need to apply the axial stress or the deviated stress, which is in addition to the applied cell pressure. Now, as a result of the sigma C, there was a development of the delta UC. On top of the cell pressure, you are further increasing the deviated stress. So therefore, the net pore pressure that gets increased within the soil sample is nothing but delta UC plus or minus delta UD. C designates the pore pressure development. Yeah.
Sir, please repeat my voice. Your voice was not clear.
Oh, my voice is breaking.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So C designates the cell pressure or the pore pressure as a result of application of the cell pressure. D designates development of the deviated stress as a development of the pore water pressure as a result of the deviated stress. So therefore, the summation is delta UC plus or minus delta UD. Now, if you want to calculate the effective stresses, so sigma 3 dash is equal to sigma 3 minus delta UC minus R plus of delta UD, and sigma 1 dash is sigma 3 plus delta sigma D minus UC minus R plus delta sigma UD. Sorry. Yeah, delta UD. Okay, so this is how, so the pore pressure. Now here, so it is the another pore pressure parameter that Skempton has introduced is what would be the development of the pore water pressure because of the application of the deviated stress. So when you try to equate these two, so these two parameters have been equated with the help of another constant that is called as A. So therefore, A is a pore water pressure parameter as a result of the application of the deviated stress. B is the pore pressure parameter as a result of the application of the self pressure. Now the total pore pressure parameter is nothing but delta UC plus delta UD, where delta UC is nothing but B into delta sigma 3, where delta UD is nothing but A into delta sigma D. So this can be written delta sigma D is again nothing but the difference of major and minor principal stresses, delta sigma 1 minus delta sigma 3. While in some books, so this equation is further simplified. It is written in the form of B into delta sigma 3 plus A bar into delta sigma 1 minus delta sigma 3, where A bar can be written as the product of A multiplied by B. The product of A multiplied by. While sometimes the same equation is written in the form of the final pore water pressure parameter, that is AF. So that is AF, which is corresponding to delta UF. So the like which we have discussed in the previous class. Okay, so this is a simple analogy about understanding the Skempton's pore pressure parameters, so A and B. So there is an extended theory, so which is correlating B with the consolidation coefficients. You can refer to any book. While A is again correlated with the over consolidation ratio. Usually the B value is confined to 0, 1, while A value is it goes up to
Sir.
2.5. Yeah.
Hello, sir. The ratio of delta UD and delta sigma D is sir, I think.
The ratio of delta UD and delta sigma D.
Yeah, that would be A bar. No?
This is A bar.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. It should be A bar, sir.
Okay.
So after the relation, we will find the A, sir.
Usually,
Delta UD and delta sigma D ratio is A bar and A bar equal to A dot B.
okay. Accordingly, you can change it. No issue. So if you take this as A bar, then this will become A.
No, A bar equal
No,
to
sir.
A into B.
It
That
is-
is true. But the ratio of delta UD by delta sigma D, that would be A bar.
Delta UD by delta sigma D is A bar.
Yes. I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
what I've read.
Okay, so no issue. Whatever the terminology you refer to, so no problem. But the fundamental thing is that A or A bar is the parameter that you need to understand as a result of the application of the deviated stress. So these two things you should not avoid.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a small theory about the Skempton's pore pressure parameters in UU test.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, I didn't understand these two graphs, sir. Can you please make clear this?
No, there is nothing. The value of the B is a function of the degree of saturation. The value of the A is a function of the over consolidation ratio. That's it. So this is given in any book. There is
Okay,
no
sir.
there are no derivations.
And sir, please, in the second case, so why have you not used the negative pore water pressure, sir? That was my question, sir.
See, what is the condition to conduct the UU test?
It should be saturated, sir. Fully saturated.
Once it is saturated, then so where else this UR is coming into the picture? That UR
Okay,
is
sir.
when the sample is in a free state, not in the triaxial testing condition.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay, so any other question? Okay.
Sir, backwater pressure we will be applying up to the failure.
No. Back pressure is applied to saturate the soil sample.
Okay, before starting the stage 1, we'll apply the back pressure and then confining pressure will be applied.
Suppose if you look at the stage 1 immediately after the sampling, this sample is directly taken to the triaxial test setup and it is fully saturated by applying the back pressure and the cell pressure simultaneously. Okay, then once the B value becomes unity, then you will apply the cell pressure. Okay, then you will apply the cell pressure. So once cell pressure is applied, subsequently then the sample is sheared by increasing the deviated stress.
Okay, sir.
You understood now or any question? Okay. Okay, so now let us try to understand. So how do you represent the shear strength parameters? So that is C and pi for different tests. See, for example, if you take CD test. So what kind of C and pi values are obtained? Total or effective? Anybody?
Effective, sir.
Effective. Tau, sigma. So this is in case of the CD test, and in case of UU, so what you will get only single Mohr circle. So this is CU or CU undrained, and so pi U is 0. Pi U is 0. And in case of CU test, So let us try to understand what will happen to the shear strength parameters. So when you try to conduct UU test or CU test or CP test. So let us go from one by one. In fact, you can also superimpose the UCS test. So there is no problem. Since it is very simple, so I am not superimposing. Now the very first one is UU. So as we understood in the previous class, if the sample of the full saturation, yeah,
Sir, there is blur on the blackboard, sir.
there is
Sir, blur, sir.
blur.
Yes, sir. Letter are not so visible, sir.
Oh, wait. Is it okay now?
Video is actually lagging sometimes.
Yeah, I think it is a network issue.
Yeah.
So it's a
Yes, sir.
network.
It is okay from earlier.
Okay, okay. So now, if you conduct any UU test unconsolidated, undrained, so just imagine that you are not measuring any pore pressure parameters. What if it is only the undrained position, where the friction angle is 0? Okay, but so this is assuming that the sample is fully saturated. So your SR is unity, degree of saturation is 1. Now we also have seen that, so there is an effect of degree of saturation on the UU testing. Suppose if you account for the effect of the degree of saturation, so then it looks like this. Okay, so in that case, so you get both Cu value and pi u value. So this is tau, this is sigma, where SR is less than 1. So where SR is 1, when you maintain the degree of saturation of unity, you will get a single value of the shear strength parameter, that is Cu, undrained coefficient, where pi u is 0. Where suppose
The
if you
video is blurred.
didn't,
The video is blurred.
no, I'm sorry, I did not understand. Yet, Riaz, can you repeat the question?
Sir, video is blurred. It's not clear. Board is not visible.
Oh, board is not visible. Okay, so I will wait for a minute. So let the network issue get settled.
Sir,
Yeah,
sir, in actual field conditions, soil is not generally fully saturated, sir. But while doing the triaxial test, we are making the soil as fully saturated. So there is more gap between these two conditions, sir.
correct. That is true. See, but the condition is,
Sir,
what is the worst condition? Suppose say when you are envisaging any kind of a failure. So are you seeing the failures? For example, you take the landslides. So are you hearing about the landslide occurrence in the rainy season or in the dry season, that is summer?
rainy season, sir.
Why? Why only the landslides are happening in the rainy season?
So I think interlocking force will
The
become
shear strength
negligible.
get reduced due to
So during the rainy season, so the rainwater infiltrates into the soil media, so which develops some kind of the pore water pressure. Okay, as and when there is a development of the pore water pressure, there is a net decrease in the effective stress. Okay, or else, so the infiltrated water causes some kind of the reduction in the strength. Whenever there is a reduction in the strength, which is lesser than the original shear strength of a soil, so you obviously, so you can envisage some kind of the landslide. So this is a typical reason that can be envisioned. But of course, there are several other reasons for the landslide also. So for example, many of the landslides are occurring because they are some kind of the unsupported vertical cuts. Primarily, if you cause some kind of the disturbance at the toe, that triggers the landslide. So this is also one of the important point. While it could be combination or coupling of the loss of toe strength with increment in the pore water pressure, anything could be. But under ideal condition, where you are assuming that everything is all right, but only there is an infiltration of the rainwater, in those conditions you can assume that, so it is the water that causes the instability within the soils. So is it clear now?
Oh, okay, sir. Means saturation stage is worst condition, and we are designing for that worst condition.
Correct.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, for example, if you look at these two conditions, so this is the worst condition, but it is simply saying that the strength is solely dependent on only the cohesion component and the strength is independent of the friction. Well, suppose if you take the degree of saturation of less than 1, it highlights that the strength is dependent on both the undrained cohesion as well as the undrained friction angle. So in general, if you refer to any book, so most of the time they argue that the angular friction is more reliable than the cohesion, because once the friction angle is set after the application of the normal stress, it is difficult to lose the same interlocking phenomenon. So therefore, that force exists unless otherwise the normal force existed is so higher than the interlocking force. Okay, now, so this is the initial condition. Now from UU, you are moving to the consolidated undrained test. So in the consolidated undrained test, so you are allowing the drainage only during the consolidation, but during the shearing, the valve is closed. So as a result, you will get both the shear strength parameters in the form of a total as well as in the form of a effective. Both you will get it. So here you can see the Mohr circle which has been drawn in the form of a total stress as well as in the form of a effective stress. So Cu and pi u and Cd and pi d. But one important thing that you need to understand is when the stresses are converted from the total to the effective, you always see that there is a reduction in the cohesion component and there is an increment in the internal frictional component. So this can be corroborated with the consolidation which is happening. Now, for example, when the soil condition is initially at the total stress condition, and when you are consolidating the soil sample, you are simply expelling the water from the soil sample. When there is an expulsion, there is a rearrangement of the particles. So this rearrangement improves the interlocking, but at the same time makes the soil more dependent on the interlocking rather than on the cohesion. So this is the reason why. So when the stresses are transformed from total to the effective, there is a more dependency of the stress bearing on the angle of internal friction rather than on the cohesion component. Right. When the soil is transformed from Cu to completely Cd, consolidated drain test, now depending upon whether the soil sample is NC, normally consolidated or over consolidated, or for example in case of the sand, either NC or sand. So in these two cases, the Mohr-Coulomb failure envelope simply passes through horizon. That means no cohesion exists in case of the normally consolidated clay or sandy soil samples. Or other way around, if you conduct any CD test on the NC and sand, what you will get is only pi dash. So C dash is 0. C dash is 0. So in this condition, so C dash is 0 and pi dash is not equals to 0. On the other hand, if you take the over consolidated clay and on which if you conduct the consolidated drain test, both you will get C dash and pi dash. Both are in the effective stress forms, not in the total stress forms. Okay. So here, since the drainage is allowed both during the consolidation as well as the shearing, so at no point of time you are allowing or facilitating the development of the pore water pressure. So therefore, no way you are encountering the unconsolidated or undrained state. Okay, so I think now the complete concept of UU, CU and CD test is clear to everyone. Now at last, suppose if I ask you to draw the stress strain relationship starting from UCS tau versus sigma, starting from UCS, UU, CU and CD. So which curve lies above and which curve lies below? Can we able to try? So my simple submission to you is, if I want to draw the stress strain curve, okay, so this is normal stress, this is strain. So if you draw the stress strain curve for UCS, UU, CU and CD, so which curve is the bottommost and which curve is the topmost? So please make an attempt.
Sir,
Yeah,
CD will be topmost
see,
and UU will be bottommost.
so this is CD and bottommost is,
UU, sir.
and what about UCS? What about UCS and the CU?
Sir, in between, sir.
So this is CU and the UCS also in between.
Sir, just below the CD, sir.
Okay, but that's not true. So this is UCS. Okay, so if you compile the stress strain graphs which you have obtained from UCS, UU, CU and CD. So for the same soil sample, the condition is that for the same soil sample, if you conduct UCS, UU, CU and CD, UCS will always yield the lowest possible strength of that particular soil sample. Then UU gives always higher than the UCS and CU gives always higher than UU and CD gives always higher than the CU. Now the reason behind this one is, just imagine what is the condition for UCS? Unconfined compressive strength. Sigma 3 is literally 0. There is no confinement in the lateral direction. So the amount of the load that soil sample can able to bear is much lesser. Much lesser. Now in UU, what you are doing? Now you are providing confining pressure also. So one step ahead of UCS. In the UCS, sigma 3 is 0, but in UU, you are providing the sigma 3, which may be 50 or 100 or 150 kilopascals. Now, when you apply the confining pressure, and on this confining pressure, if you apply the axial stress, so it is obvious that the axial stress can be borne more than or higher than the confining pressure itself, first of all. Unless your deviatory stress exceeds that of the cell pressure, the sample will not fail. So therefore, the strength shall be obtained from the UU is always higher than the UCS. Now, but in the UU, so you are allowing the development of the pore water pressure because you are not allowing the consolidation of the soil sample as well. But in CU, at one stage of the testing, you are allowing the consolidation of the soil sample. No more water exists. So much of the load is borne by the soil particles. And at the same time, the sample is already subjected to the cell pressure and deviatory stress. So in UU condition, there is a development of the pore water pressure. As a result, so it can take smaller amount of the load because water can able to take lesser load than the soil particles. So therefore, in CU test, as you are dissipating some amount of the excess pore water pressure, so therefore more load can be borne by the soil particles. And when you go to ultimately the CD test, so no water exists within the soil sample, the whole load is borne by the soil particles. So therefore, the soil particles alone could able to take much amount of higher load than the soil plus water component together. So this is the fundamental reasons. So are the rationally behind why CD able to give higher strength than Cu. So which yields higher than the UU, which yields higher than the UCS. Okay. Now another important thing. See, just imagine that you are conducting the same soil sample, on the same soil sample, UCS or UU or CU or CD test. So initially when you conduct the UU, the sample is exhibiting the CU value and pi value, cohesion and the friction angle. So now when it is transformed from UU to CD, so the CU becomes 0 and pi dash exists. That means, so you are literally transforming the material behavior. So initially under UU condition, so there is a cohesion component and there is a frictional component. But when the sample is transformed from UU to CD, so the behavior is remain confined to only the frictional component. So there is no more cohesion component. That means, so there is an overall change in the behavior of the material itself. So when you conduct the different tests, or for that matter, the other way around of understanding this one is, in the presence of the water and in the absence of the water, the behavior of the soil is completely different. In the absence of the water, it behaves more or less like a frictional material. In the presence of water, so it exhibits both frictional behavior as well as the cohesion. So that's what is the meaning of all this, the Mohr-Coulomb failure envelopes. Okay, so these are the most fundamental concepts that we need to understand. Okay, so do you have any question? Anybody has any question?
Sir, 100%
Sir.
saturation, is it possible? I mean, practically.
Pardon me?
Practically 100% saturating the soil sample, is it possible? I mean, we have only seen point up to 9.5, I mean, B value.
Yeah.
So,
So getting SRF 1 is literally daunting.
can it be done?
May be done, but it takes an immense amount of a time. Suppose if it takes 10 days to achieve from 50 to 90, so it may take a couple of years to go from 0.9 to 1. So that's why once we achieve, so the B value of more than 9, we presume that it is the soil sample is fully saturated.
Okay.
Sir.
Yeah.
So initial soil was contains some C value and phi value, but in CD test C value is totally zero, sir. Why, sir? It should contain some amount of cohesion also, na, sir?
See, that's what I told you just now. See, when you expel the water from the soil sample, okay, you try to understand. The equation for effective stress is total minus the pore pressure. So suppose if you correlate this equation to, so these testing conditions, when you are conducting the UU, there is a full development of the UU. The UU is highest. Okay. And when you go to CD test, why it is highest? Because you are not allowing the water to dissipate from the soil sample. There water also bearing the load. That's why UU is high. There is some value of U means the water is bearing the load. So this is the funda. Okay. Now in CD test, the drainage valve is opened both during the consolidation and shearing. So that means the moment you apply the load, so no more load is borne by the water particle because it is simply dissipating. There is no water within the soil sample. By the end of CD test, no water, only soil exists. So just imagine, When no water, no U, no pore water pressure component. No U means whatever you apply as a total will become the effective. When there is no U, so there is no C component. Okay.
Means the C depends on you, sir.
Pore, not U means pore pressure parameter. Cohesion depends upon that's what is the math. See, when you read any book, usually they say the cohesion component is not reliable because its value varies when the sample gets saturated. As an example, you take your consistency limits test. So as you are adding the water, what is happening to the total strength? What is the strength of the soil at liquid limit? What is the strength of the soil at the plastic limit and shrinkage limit? Are they same?
Different, sir.
That's what.
Sir, this is the reason why at liquid limit CA strength is so much lesser.
For what?
So CA strength. So this whole means this whole things are responsible to for making lesser CA strength at liquid limit.
No, not that is the reason. I'm just making an analysis, that's all, for simple understanding.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so I will stop it here.